All right, folks, hey, welcome back to the program. As you can see, the microphone has kind of switched sides. That means we have a live guest in studio. I want to welcome back to the program State Representative Jack Ladyman is with us. Jack, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always great to have you on. Can you just talk a little bit about an announcement that you made? I saw on Facebook a day or so ago. So what's the announcement?
Well, I really wanted to get that out sooner, but I was thinking about it, praying about it, making sure that I wanted to make the right decision. But I have decided to run for another term. Of course, it'd be my fourth term. I believe we've done a lot in the last 3 sessions, largest tax cut, income tax cut in history. We've had 3 income tax cuts, and I know there's been some tax increases, but I think we've done some great things. And there's more work to do, and I want to be a part of that. This job is not easy, I'll tell people that. You see some people not wanting to run for a 4th or 5th term because it is a difficult job, and it's part-time.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of your effort. And some people just get burned out, quite honestly. But I think we need to do what we can, and I want to talk a little bit about the positives in a minute. But we need to promote our state. We need to talk about positive things. Some of the things that grab all the airtime nowadays are really negative. They don't help us. They don't help move our state forward. They don't help the people of Arkansas. We need to talk about things that make the lives better of Arkansans, and that's what I like to talk about. So that's the reason I want to go back. I think I've still got something to give, and I want to help the state move forward.
Well, I will say I always definitely know that you are a positive guy. You definitely want to look. You're a half full, glasses half full kind of guy.
Yeah, some people say I'm too positive sometimes, but hey, I'll take that.
Well, some people say I'm too negative. So
goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So talk a little bit about one of the things that I watched you do this past session was chair the public health committee. I thought you did a really good job of that because there was a lot of bills that came your way that were they were hard. I mean, it's a very busy committee, right?
It's a difficult committee, a very important committee, very important things. When you talk about the health of people, and a lot of people don't realize, but all of the work-related bills come through that committee. So we're talking, workers' comp, the environment, lots of things come through there. But I really enjoyed that job. One of the favorite things I used to like when I was mayor was running the city council meetings. And I know some of the mayors are laughing when they hear that because that's tough because you get all kinds of people and viewpoints coming in, and you're bouncing a lot of balls. You got a lot of balls in the air, but to me that is really enjoyable because you see people coming out. You know what is important to people when they come out to these meetings, and they're adamant about their beliefs. And that's the same way with these committees. You attended some of the meetings and the rooms were full. We had to have security guards in there a couple of times. And we went late at night. I think one night we went till 9:30. Matt had to come down and tell me to quit because I was keeping the guys too late. But it's important, and it's a lot of energy there, and you know that these things are important to people when they come out like that. When they drive all the way to Little Rock and they sit down in front of 20 state representatives to present their point, it's an important thing to them.
We're talking with State Representative Jack Ladyman. Where did you fall down again on it seemed like the one deregulation bill that the medical society was against, but it got through, was the optometrist deregulation. And now we have this movement to try to put it on the ballot to undo it. What are your thoughts on all that drama?
Well, that's a deep subject. We could spend a whole show on that one. But there's 2 sides to this question. The medical community, they're wanting to protect their turf, but they're sincere about that. They want high quality medical care, and that's great. The other side is we want to be able to provide medical care to rural areas in Arkansas at as low a cost as possible and as high a quality as possible. So that's the debate. And I've had many discussions with Dr. Spythe out here at NYIT, Dr. Patterson at UAMS, I've gone to meetings in Denver and Nashville and talked to other chairmen of other committees in other states about this issue. It's an issue for everybody. So what it comes down to is we're debating a number of scope of practice bills which would allow treatment in rural areas. The question is, can you maintain the quality of that treatment out in these rural areas with people that do not have the same level of education? So the nurse practitioners don't have as much education as the doctors, optometrists don't have as much education as the ophthalmologist. So where's the sweet spot there?
Yeah.
How do we provide that medical care at the accepted quality level in rural areas without affecting our doctors and our good medical system that we have? So that's the question. And we had about 4 of those bills. The optometrist bill was the only one that got out of committee and eventually got out of the legislature.
And signed by the governor.
And signed by the governor. And so again, as I said earlier, you have groups that are very adamant in the medical community, and I don't hold this against them, they're adamant about maintaining high quality standards. And that's why you see them going so far and spending so much money on this issue. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, this is the first issue. There will be others. We have 20 interim studies, not all of them are medical, for the Public Health Committee. That's the most of any committee down there. So we've got 20 things that are being studied in the interim. And again, that could be another full show. But
yeah.
So there's a lot of interest in this. A number of them are these scope of practice bills. So we're going to see much more of that. And the battle is going to be strong. It's going to be. And I was talking to, well, I won't say who, but one of the medical professionals the other day, and I said, where I stand on this is education. So in the interim, I want to bring information to the committee members so that they understand, because some of them are not doctors or nurses. So because if you don't have the knowledge, when a subject comes up, the two sides go to their corners.
Yeah.
And they stand firm on that because they don't know. They don't have the information. And we don't want that. You can't accomplish anything like that. So you've got to have the education out there, let people understand, have knowledge of what we're discussing.
Yeah.
Because I'll just use the doctors and nurses as an example. Doctors are going to believe one thing, nurses are going to believe one thing. We on this committee, which are made up of doctors, nurses, engineers, whatever, are going to have to make the decision. So we hear both sides. So the more knowledge that we have of these two sides, the better decision we're going to make. But there are going to be changes in Arkansas in the medical application. And I want to make sure that we're making the correct ones.
Yeah.
The best thing I can do is to help educate or get knowledge to the people making that decision.
What do you think, though, about the fact that the Medical Society, they did take this one loss with the bill that allowed optometrists to do, say, what optometrists in Oklahoma have been doing for 20
Right.
years. The ophthalmologists think that it's a major change. Optometrists say it's minor and that they're already trained to do this in optometry school. It was debated vigorously.
Right.
I mean, it was.
Yes, it was.
And it passed vigorous debate in the committees and on the House floor and vice versa on the other side.
And it was a close vote.
And it was a close vote. But then it was signed. And now the ophthalmologist lobby comes back. They start paying for signatures. They're trying to undo what we just did. Now, obviously, it's their right to do that. But what are your thoughts on trying to undo what you guys just put in place?
Well, obviously, I don't like that because the people elected us and we went and made the decision. We made the votes. So what they're doing is going against the will of the people when they do that. And as you know, that's not a good thing. When the people talk, I like to listen, and I try to listen. And I think everyone should take that approach, but everyone doesn't. But again, you've got to put yourself in their shoes. They're protecting their turf.
That's true.
And they feel adamantly about that. I mean, we could talk about gun control, the same thing. You have these groups that feel so strongly about that they're going to do everything in their power, take every opportunity and use every political or legal tool that they can to hold their turf. Mm-hmm. And the medical society is no different than the gun lobby. They're protecting what they think and adamantly think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And that's why they do that. I don't hold grudges. I don't feel badly towards a group for doing what they think is right. I'll disagree with them,
Right. Right. Exactly.
but then I'll go buy them a cup of coffee, and we have to do that. We
Yeah.
have to be that way. We really do. But before I forget, the Public Health, Welfare, and Labor Committee that I chair, we're in a joint session now. So we have joint, Senate and House together. And I'll be chairing the October meeting. So I'm having that in Jonesboro
Wow.
on the
Okay.
7th and the 8th. And we're going to be out at the Human Development Center. We're going to tour that. We're going to have a presentation on by the architectural group that's looking at updating and rebuilding some of the HDCs around the state. They've already started in Booneville. They're looking at Jonesboro. We've got new ideas on how to improve those. So that's going to be on the agenda. And I'll miss some things here, but we're going to meet there. We're going to be out at ASU that night to tour the new convention center. So we're going to bring about 50 people here from all around the state, and they're going to see. I mean, Jonesboro Human Development Center is one of the best in the state. I think it's the best, but it's one of the best. We got this convention center coming up. People are going to see that. We're going to go to ASU. They're going to see what's done out that campus.
Yeah.
The next day, we're going to be out at the NEA Baptist Hospital at their conference room for a meeting and talk about medical issues. Then the chamber is going to present our industry here in Jonesboro, which is the best in the state. I know I'm right about that because I've been around the state and lived in other areas. So they're going to present what we have here in industry out in our industrial park. Then we're going to take a bus tour out in the industrial park and go to one of the factories. So
That sounds like what it's in October. Do you know the date?
October 7th and 8th. That'll be a
Okay.
Monday and a Tuesday.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's a big deal, Jack.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's why, Paul, our legislators that have been down there a while now, me included and some of the other guys, we've been there long enough. We know people. We've got into a leadership role, and don't get me wrong here. I mean, I'm not running the. If I was running the show, I'd do things differently. But I am involved in the leadership, and some of the other people from Craighead County and Northeast Arkansas are as well. And just to give you an example, when the speaker during the session had his weekly management meeting, I sat on his right hand. I was the right-hand seat. Dwight Tosh was in there. We were at the table. So what that says is we have input on these decisions. That helps our area of the state. And so we want to promote our area of the state. And I know you have listeners in other areas, other parts of the state. We're for Arkansas. But again, as I said earlier, we got to present our interests.
You represent your district. I mean,
My
that's what
first
you're
job
supposed
is to
do.
represent District 59. My
Yeah.
second job is to represent Arkansas.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking with State Representative Jack Ladyman. He's announced that he will be running for re-election, and so that is a big deal. We wanted to have him on today. Jack, let me ask you real quick, because I've got to ask you, and I will preface this question by saying that State Representative Mickey Gates says he understands why Matthew Shepard is moving for it, and he doesn't hold any grudge or anything like that. But have you made up your mind yet as to how you think, does he need to be expelled at this point?
Well, what I believe we have to do, and let me just say that Speaker Shepard has done a great job on working on this. Now, I know some people thought he should have done things earlier, but he's taken his time. He's looked at the laws, and he's heard from the different sides. I think he's done a great job. I think he's done the right thing. And I know that many people have talked to Representative Gates personally about this. It would be better if he would resign. Again, I know that he feels strongly about his side, but I think he needs to look at the effect on the state, on the legislature, and on him. And he needs to make the right decision. Being right and having power is not always the right thing. Sometimes you have to make a decision that might not be what you want to do, or it might not be within the power you have, but a good person makes that right decision for everybody.
Yeah.
And I wish Representative Gates would do that. My personal opinion is whatever the law says is what I'm going to follow. And I think most of the folks in the House will do that. it seems to be pretty clear now that there is at least one law that
you guys voted on
have
in
to
the last,
follow.
yeah, the
And
one in the last session. That y'all
if
passed?
that is the deciding law, then expulsion is probably what's going to have to happen.
Yeah. What do you think about? I mean, I mean, I've read the interviews that Mickey Gates did, and it's like what you said. Being right versus thinking about
Doing the right thing.
Because really, this is an image thing. I mean, if we're honest about this, whether you think he should be expelled or not, it doesn't look good when you have somebody who's pled no contest for not paying taxes and that sort of thing. Although I think the whole thing is very interesting. I saw in the paper where Joe Jett was saying we need to go through this other process where both sides, DFNA and Mickey Gates, will be able to present their case. From what I can tell, Mickey Gates thinks that the DFNA did something wrong. I mean, with this whole process.
Yeah.
And he does cite the fact that he was arrested, and the press was tipped off. But he wasn't arraigned for 3 months, which ended up being like a week before early voting. That's when he was arraigned, and he still got reelected. So,
and Paul, we know that there are things that go on like that are politically motivated by government people. I won't say agencies, but it's bad actors in the government agency.
We definitely know that. Look at what's going on.
We know
at
that
the federal
happens.
level.
And I mean, Mickey may be exactly right on this. I don't know, but again, the letter of the law, if it's a clear violation of a law, what you're talking about is another issue.
Okay.
We have to be very clear about what the law is, and we have to follow the law because that's what the people expect us to do.
And just to be clear to the folks listening, the key is if you've got a sitting legislator who's found guilty or pleads guilty, and the idea is that this no contest, he pled no contest, even though he pled it under a different law. Obviously they contend that he actually isn't guilty yet. So there is some gray area there. But basically, if it's a public trust crime where you're a legislator, and in this case, it's alleged that he didn't pay taxes, then he has to be expelled is what the other side's making. So it is fascinating. I mean, obviously everybody wishes that they weren't in this situation or in this scenario. We're talking with State Representative Jack Ladyman. I'll give you the last word, sir, about your announcing for re-election.
Well, I'm looking forward to going back and working on some things. There's two hot issues right now. I don't have time to get into these, but one of them is vaping. Our committee has had 2 meetings. I missed the last one because I had another commitment.
Excuse me.
That's a big issue. It's going to get bigger, and I don't have time to go into it, but there's 2 sides to that issue. I'll just give you one statistic. There's been 9 people, I believe it is, hospitalized in the state of Arkansas due to vaping.
Yeah.
6 or 7 of those have been found to use THC or some other
not the
illegal
nicotine
drug that they put into the device. But the other side of the problem is there's been according to the superintendent of the Bentonville schools who came to our committee, there's been a 400% increase in high school students doing vaping in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
So that's another issue. So are we getting kids into smoking going through this device? So it's a big issue. You're going to hear a lot about that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And there's already been a proposed tax increase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second issue, of course, is violence in schools and in our stores and in our community. And I spoke to the West Side juniors and seniors a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the questions they asked me. It's a big issue. And we have to be careful about what we do here. We don't want knee-jerk reactions like Beto O'Rourke can come after our guns. That's not
right.
We're wasting energy by talking about that.
Yeah.
We do have to address this issue, and that's going to be a lot of debate in the coming months and years. My take on that is that it is a health issue. It's a mental health issue. And things like
violence in schools, or
the crisis center. People get in crisis. They get in situations where they're going to lash out. What we have to do is fix that problem. It's a mental problem.
Yeah.
It's not a gun problem, a knife problem, a semi, a car,
you're right about that.
a pressure cooker. People use all of these tools to do that. So we don't attack the tool. We have to figure out what the problem is.
Yeah.
but that's going to be a debate ongoing, and we do need to do something.
Let me ask you this: do you think, though, that back on the vaping, do you think that the government passing a law is really going to keep kids from using this product in school? I mean, right now they raise the age from smoking to 18 to 21, and yet,
Right.
I mean, there's still people that are going to be smoking.
Well, that's a debatable issue. I know that based on historical, the sin taxes do reduce the number of people using those, whether it's tobacco or alcohol or whatever it is. So it probably would help in that situation. A tax, I don't like that means of doing it.
Yeah.
That would reduce the number of people vaping. I'm not sure what the answer is, Paul, but I think we need to work on it. I think we need more information.
Yeah, I just would say, people were using nicotine when I was in high school, when you were in high school. I mean, it's been something that people have been doing for a long
Paul,
time.
we know that nicotine and smoking is related to cancer. We know that it's unhealthy. We know that people get cancer. Maybe it's not a direct link, but most people think it's connected to smoking. I had a brother-in-law that died of lung cancer, smoked a lot.
Yeah.
And we know that happens. So we want to reduce that. But we don't want to take away people's freedom of choice. If they want to do that, that's their right.
Yeah.
And they should be able to do it.
State Representative Jack Ladyman, it's always a treat to have you on. I always appreciate the discussion, sir.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
it.
congratulations on your announcement.